Hi, welcome to the North Carolina VA Regional Office Employee History Museum. My name is Jim Reed. I'm an assistant coach on teams Rolling Thunder and Noble Eagle, two RVSR teams. And I'm also a member of the committee that helped design this space. Beginning in September of 2020, we were given the mission to find out the history of the regional office and gather a lot of the things we've worked with over the years and tell a story about our life in the regional office. So here's what we found. We found that when the Veterans Bureau was established in 1921, it created 14 districts and 126 sub-district offices. 2 of those offices were in North Carolina, one in Charlotte and one in Raleigh. The Charlotte office was in the Mint building. That building was built for the North Carolina gold rush in the 1830s and 1840s to produce coins. The federal government stopped using it during the Civil War, and it was repurposed into many different government functions after the war. The VA, the Veterans Bureau, moved into that space. It handled all the operations that the Veterans Bureau handled, including compensation, pension, health care, and what they called then training as Veterans Readiness, the Veterans Readiness Program today. The Raleigh office only handled training cases. The Raleigh office closed in the summer of 2023, and the regional office in Charlotte moved around to a couple of buildings. First to a Wade Loft building, which was on 6th Street in Charlotte, and on to the Johnston building, which still exists on Tryon Street in Charlotte. In 1927, the VA decided they could save a lot of money by combining the regional offices with hospitals, so the country saw a bit of a hospital building spree. In 1930, the Veterans Bureau was changed to the Veterans Administration, and in 1940, the regional office in Charlotte moved to Fayetteville to a new space at the brand new Fayetteville VA Medical Center. Just 13 months later, World War II breaks out. The hospital saw an increase in the needs to care for veterans. It needed the space the regional office was using. The regional office had 400 employees. It needed 50,000 square feet of its own. It needed to find a new place to go. Fayetteville wasn't an option. They tried to go back to Charlotte. Charlotte didn't have the space available, and Winston-Salem at the Nissen building in downtown, which is there, it had 9 floors of War Department agencies which were winding down operations. The VA needed to move fast. The regional office needed to move fast to get here, so they ended up putting everybody in an old tobacco warehouse to work until they could get that Nissen building cleared out. It didn't go as planned. They thought that they were going to be able to move in a month or two. Turns out it wasn't until June, and as you know, Winston-Salem in June can get hot. The tobacco warehouse had no air conditioning. People were complaining. Nissen building's still not ready, and so the VA started to explore moving to Asheville and Charlotte. Ultimately, the lease got done with the Nissen building, and we moved in there for the next 20 years. In 1966, we moved to the new Winston Tower. It was built for Wachovia as its headquarters. We spent about 8 years there until the Hiram Ward building was finished. That's where we are today. We began operating in the Hiram Ward building in 1974. We eventually ended up renting 5 floors of Wells Fargo for pre-discharge, BDD, and other operations. Today, we are still in both places, and that's our journey. Who knows how long we'll be here? We'll have to find out. During our research, we found that we actually have worked with 4 Medal of Honor recipients over the years. They are Bob Patterson, Fred Zapatoski, Lawrence Joel, and Jack Lucas. Jack Lucas is still the youngest person honored with the Medal of Honor. I would encourage you to Google them and read their citations. They are pretty amazing stories to tell. As we move back down this way, we'll show you some of the artifacts we found. Things that we scavenged during our hunt through the empty floors right after COVID. We have in the cabinets here, various old pamphlets, stamps we used to have to put on the paper files for drop mail, teleconference, appeals, official file copies. We have the 2-hole punches. We have to, for the old Capri records, we have to put those in our files. The mega staplers, they could go through 100+ pages. Each one of the tape was for the claims folders to designate the terminal digit. So 0 to 9, 11 to 10 to 19, and on up. And then we have the employee Facebook from the early 2000s, where you can see, let's see if we can get a good one here. There's a Joe Speditz right there. Good looking guy with hair there. And then we're going to move down to the next cabinet. And here we have the 1930 rating schedule. It's the original rating schedule. You get service connected in 1% increments. And if you're in post, you probably realize that could be a fun thing to figure out when it comes to payments. We also have the 1945 rating schedule, which is the basis for our current rating schedule. Down towards the bottom, we have a picture of the 50th anniversary of the Veterans Administration celebration. General Norm Gaddis, a former prisoner of war from Vietnam, was here to help celebrate that event. Someone found a 1960 VA regional office fiscal report that has a picture of the battleship North Carolina, and during that year the folks in Wilmington were trying to rescue the ship from a scrapyard up north, and they were bringing it down here to become the museum that it now is. We also have some 50th anniversary GI Bill stamps, and every VA medical center had its own dinnerware stamped with the Veterans Administration stamp. We found a bread plate at Replacements in Greensboro. There's other dinnerware out there online. They can get rather pricey, but that was not very expensive. I think like $8. As we come back down towards here, we have the old mail station. So when VSRs and RVSRs would send out letters, mainly VSRs would send out letters, they put it in a out box, and file clerks would come around and pick that mail up. Each claims folder had its own claim label with a color based on the month that the claim was received, and we'd write information on the claim label to help figure out what was going on inside. Remember the old service treatment record jackets? Every paper service treatment record would have to go in these inside the claims folders, and these would get very thick, so some veterans might have 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. No kidding, we found all sorts of different kinds of envelopes. Envelopes with windows, envelopes without windows. We used to send 5103 notices, what we call 5103 notices a day. We used to send those in those envelopes. We would have hundreds of these envelopes filled up and put in the box, ready to be mailed out every day. And this is the RVSR's desk. It's the oldest desk we could find after the renovation of the 5th floor, where they had a bunch of World War II surplus stuff. That's the oldest one we could find, so that's what we've got. But on this we have the very old 38 CFR. As I spill things, this is your manual. Thank the wonderful people of the internet who helped us put this online so you can search it a lot easier. If you needed to ship a claims folder somewhere, you'd write where it needed to go on the buck slip. Those are floating around all over the place. You're going to do a deferral. BBMS didn't exist, so you had to write on a blue sheet, pen or pencil. We found an ashtray, even though you're not supposed to smoke, up in the file room. Phones. Here's one of those date stamp things. And the final thing, some of you might remember the file room. This was on the 6th floor, where desks are now. And OIG apparently decided that all of that paper weighed too much for the floor and wrote a report that ended up on national news and some of the late night talk shows making jokes about how we were antiquated and full of paper and that was going to collapse the floor. So all that moved in a matter of months, and that was kind of the beginning of the transition from paper to BBMS. But every one of those folders you see there is a veteran, and back in that time, if the veteran was alive, then we owned the file in Winston-Salem, and we had to house it. It didn't go to St. Louis or anywhere else. And so a veteran, some of those veterans have claims going, some of those veterans didn't have claims going. The veteran files a claim, the file clerk's going to take that mail and go find that folder and put one of those tickets on it with the claim label and put it in a shelf, and then it's going to get distributed to a BSR to review and mail the person letters and gather evidence, and eventually it's going to go RFD, and you know the whole process. We have a few of those folders here. This one's stacked up with paper that's training stuff, just training, not real. So that is our museum, and it's going to continue to grow. We're going to continue doing some more research. We're going to look for some fun facts and fun things from years past, and we're going to continue to collect objects because what we use today is tomorrow's history, and it may not sound so cool that, hey, this is some 2023 stuff, but in 2063, when somebody is walking around this space and takes a look at it, they might think, man, those people back in 2023, look what they had to work with. I'm so glad we don't have to work with that today. So thank you for taking this journey with me. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email address is james.reed, R-E-E-D, the number 9 @va.gov. You can find me in the Outlook. Have a great day.